Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Nick.
Morning.
Morning, Charles.
Morning.
Right. Just give everybody 5 minutes to join, and then we'll kick it off. Got a full plate for today, so should be a good day. We got a lot to explore today.
Great.
But let's see here.
Be right back.
Okay. All right.
So I looked at like the testing times,
Oh, nice.
and I mean, there's not out of all those records. There's only about 3,000 records that have like dates that could be valid, but there's no guarantee that they're valid. And it may or may not be something that
Welcome,
works.
Alex. Sorry to interrupt you, Charles. But so Charles was just talking about turnaround time. So you're saying there are not many observations with good timestamps, or?
Yeah, there's some that are like 125 years in the past, and some that are like 125 years in the future. And there's some that have like that look like they could be valid. I have that Jupyter notebook. If I could share it with you and you can look at it.
Well, welcome, Danny. We're just letting people join, so we'll kick it off in about 5 minutes or so.
Hey guys, I'm Alex.
Oh, good to meet
Hi,
you,
Alex.
And Charles, you wouldn't mind just dropping the Jupyter notebook in the chat, or?
It's on my other machine.
Oh, okay.
Hey guys, how are you? Nice to meet you all.
Good to meet
Hi.
you, Danny. Here's David. Hello, David.
So I don't turn on my camera because I just had surgery in my nose.
No, it's not the end
my
of the
best
world.
look. My picture looks better, I guess. I mean, I don't care, but just in case.
Oh yes, and then for what it's worth, we're just going to do a little recording just of the presentation, and just to make the presentation available to people afterwards. And so I'll share the link. Our good friend Stephanie Powell over at Fortune Creative is helping us actually assemble those videos. So I'll just go ahead and just start sharing some of the handouts for today. So two just interesting places to get data. So as I go about my adventures, I'll just share interesting things with you. So over at OpenTHC, there's a strain database API if you need to look at strain names. And there's just the spec to the OpenTHC API. But let me go ahead and show you a few things here. Sorry, that was the... All right, so something you can check out is data.openthc.com. And what you can check, our friend David Busby over at OpenTHC has put together some of the data that we've been looking at. So this is the LCB data, and we've just been looking at the month of December here, but David's gone ahead and compiled everything from 2019 and he's working to make that available. So as soon as it is available, I'll share that with everybody. But there's a few interesting things that you can look at. There's business to consumer sales. So you can actually see, so this is going to take a second to load. Oh, well, but you can see month to month sales. And you can drill down into that. Well, like I said, it's still sort of being hammered out. So I think it's just an interesting tool that David's put together that, it's just a good place here. I'll put the link in the chat here so everyone can check that out. But just if you just want to get some ideas of, what can you do with this data, this can give you some ideas. So just wanted to spend a couple minutes and show you that resource. But the main thing I wanted to bring you here today, well, the later half, we'll get to talking about APIs because David's interested in integrating with the state traceability system. And then I'll show you some of the work I've been doing just with charting data. But before we really get too far ahead, I guess let's just spend 5 minutes just since this group's not all about me, but I guess could we just do a round of introductions? I guess if you don't mind, I guess Danny and Nick and I guess everybody else, would you mind just spending just 30 seconds just to introduce yourself?
No, sure.
So yeah, I guess Danny, I guess go ahead and kick it off, please. That's okay.
So my name is Danny Hurtado. I'll put my LinkedIn here to connect. I'm always open to connect, collaborate.
Definitely.
I own a marketing agency, a staffing agency, software development company, and this is pretty much and partner up with other businesses. Um, I'm the CEO for the companies. We are in Colombia, Venezuela, Chile, Peru, Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico, USA, and hopefully opening Spain. We also register in Nigeria and venturing out to Uganda. I have developers all over the world. Bangladesh too is in there. I apologize, in India. Um, I have developers all over the world, people working all over the world, and that's pretty much it. I mean, why this meetup and why the cannabis? We have a platform that's basically an ERP or MRP. If you guys, the software people, and I wanted to see how we could put this service to the cannabis industry and the data and all that stuff being like a platform that is decentralized because I own the platform. We developed the platform, decentralized for the cannabis industry people because I know it's been tough, and I'm from South America, Colombia, and I've always been like, oh yeah, marked as drug dealer and all that stuff, which is not. I'm just a business person. So that platform, I wanna see how I could put it into the industry. We're also working with blockchain technology um, and decentralized stuff. So, like, I know before Shopify and all that stuff, they didn't want to do cannabis companies and a lot of things with the cannabis, a lot of beef to the cannabis people, which I think is not right. And I know cannabis back from the day on the other good side of things, if you say. And so I just want to do that the platform to be able to customize it and help the cannabis industry. And on the other side, the marketing side, we have clients, high-end clients like General Motors, Pepsi's, and so forth. So what can we do for the cannabis industry as far as helping the cannabis, entrepreneurs or companies have that edge on marketing. So that's
Well,
a little bit.
I love it, Danny, and I think you may want to reach out to. I'll share his contact afterwards with you, and yeah, everybody feel free to share your LinkedIn's. But David Busby works with people in Colombia, and exactly, I think you're in the perfect place because exactly we want to, work with people all around the world, and really, help the cannabis industry take off. So I think you're well positioned, and we all have a lot to learn from you because so I work in the cannabis industry here in Washington State in the United States, and we have a lot to learn from other countries. So definitely feel free to share.
Perfect. I'm based in Florida, so
Florida.
if anyone's coming to Florida, you got a new friend here.
Definitely, Danny. So feel free to share, and then I guess let's go ahead and just keep moving on. So I guess Nick, just 30 seconds if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, I am currently an accountant for the #1 edible company in the United States.
Awesome.
We produce gummies and chocolates, and I'm switching my careers to data analytics, and I thought this would be a great meetup to figure out where you guys get data and stuff like that. And so that's why I'm here, just to kind of learn and observe and.
Awesome, Nick.
Yeah.
Well, we're happy to have you, and we'll share some previous links, and we're always sharing links to cannabis data. And then Charles, I guess, would you quick 30 seconds?
Hi, I'm Charles, and I have 27 years of software development experience. I've worked with Windows, iOS, Mac OS, and now I'm trying to transition into the machine learning, data analytics, data science field. And this seems like a good group. This is sort of a data set that hasn't been well explored. So it's a great opportunity.
Awesome. And then Alex,
Sure.
kick it off.
Hey, I'm Alex. I've been a professional software developer for about 5 years at this point, and I have a lot of experience developing APIs and maintaining them. And I'm super interested in the cannabis industry. It's kind of like I do a lot of side projects and businesses after work, and this is definitely one of the areas I would like to learn more about. So I'm also just kind of here to observe and hope to meet people. Thank you
Awesome.
for hosting this.
Awesome, Alex. Well, honestly, we probably have a lot to learn from you because we're diving into APIs. So as you know, a lot of the cannabis industry, well, essentially every state relies on a traceability system, and people interact through an API. So APIs are at the heart of traceability. Plus, companies are learning that different people at different stages of the supply chain can interact with each other through APIs. So there's a lot of opportunities there. And so we'll be talking about that. And then
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to share my knowledge as well.
awesome. So we're thrilled to have you, Alex. And so David, this leads well into you. So would you give us a 30-second intro, please? Uh-oh, David, we may not be able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Awesome.
Okay, that's better. Hold on, let me change from my headset. Change microphone to... Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Great hearing everybody. Kind of similar to Danny, except we sell a ERP, MRP platform that doesn't have a good option for API integration with the state of Washington, and we're looking to develop one for it. So we're a reseller. I'm a CPA who's a techie nerd and geek, all combined together. And as a CPA, I understand the accounting side of things, but as a programmer or developer, I've kind of got the geek side of things as well. and we sell an cloud accounting software called Acumatica that is one of the newer cloud-based ERP, MRP systems, and would be perfect for cannabis if it had a built-in integration to the API to get the state IDs for all of the different vendors, customers, batches in production, things of that nature. So we're looking to learn more about the API in terms of building our own customization. One of the nice things with Acumatica is it's customizable in .NET. So if you're a C# developer, Acumatica lets you actually code your development in C# right within the application, and you could even extend it out and publish it into Visual Studio to publish a DLL from it. So we find it's actually a more rapid development than Visual Studio because we can develop right within the application. We can view their source code right within the application as we make all the references and calls to it. So, like I said, been in this biz, in the accounting ERP product biz for 20 some years. I've got an engineering background, an accounting background, and a computer science background.
Awesome.
So a little bit of everything, Renaissance man, and I play guitar when we used to have open mics.
Awesome. So it looks like we've got a wide array of people here, from the data geeks to the people who, well, I guess maybe that's all of us, to the people wanting to play with the APIs. So just to share, just real quick, just what I've been working on here in the past week. So as you know, you can make public records requests, so that way you can get a nice data dump. And so the people who were with us and the people who are recently new, this is what we've been looking at. So, this is the state of Washington for December of 2020. So they're generating, about, 30 gigabytes a month of traceability data. And, this is rich for analysis. There's, probably a lot to be discovered. So, so the, rule number one about data analysis, look at the data. So I discovered this interesting library, Bokeh. So this is a Python-based library, and you can make these nice visualizations here. So an interesting dimension of data is the geographic area, right? So, knowing where things happened is pretty important. So we're going to try to make so this is called a chloropleth. So we're going to try to make a chloropleth for Washington data. Okay, so we're just going to kick it off here in Spider, and I'm just getting some of these working in the background. All right. So the external packages I'm using here, I'm just going to be using pandas as always. And then you'll need to install Bokeh if you're using Python, or it actually comes packaged with Anaconda, because I believe Bokeh is produced by Anaconda. And so I'm going to just read in some sample data here. If you are following along, you will need to download the sample data set. So you'd import Bokeh and download your data. And so this is just some sample data that comes with Bokeh, but it's nice because, we can get we can get all the counties in Washington. Well, I'll need to import the sample data. All right, and so now you have a nice list of all the counties in Washington. So the place I thought we could start off is we can essentially read in the licensees that we were working with last week. And if any of you are curious about where you can find that data, oh, we've got another joinee. Well, welcome, Jake. And so
Hello.
it's good to have you, Jake. And so I've created just a GitHub here for the Cannabis Data Science meetup group that you can just find all the source files, and I'll just keep track of everything as we start accumulating material. And so one thing we did in this past week is the first week is we basically just created an Excel spreadsheet of all the active licensees. So that's essentially just the file I'm working with here. So just to give you an example of that data. And so we've got our licensees now. Okay, and so the next step is you actually need to get the counties that these are in. So I'll share this in the GitHub repository afterwards, but essentially you can use Google Maps to geocode the locations. So I'll share this with you afterwards, but essentially I'm just using the street, the city, the state, and the zip code to geocode these. And so it's running over here, and we'll just work with well, I probably should have kept that running, I realized. Oh well. Okay, so we may have to do an actual count later on, but I'll go ahead and show you what bokeh looks like nonetheless. So we can just do this with random values here. And so essentially I've just copied this code here and created a bokeh chloropleth. And so essentially I'm just taking the state as an argument so I can get the correct counties. and then just a list of values for the given counties. So nothing that glamorous, but we're just doing a quick little mock-up just to kind of show you what you could possibly do here. So let's just see if we can't. May have to kind of fiddle with the shape because I just put in random. I just put in a. Okay, so I think. Okay, so it's not liking. Hold on one second. I've got to debug this. Well, we'll just do it this way. All right, just bear with me for a second. Grab the color palette. Get the imports. And we'll just get some random values here. Okay. So this will spit out an HTML file. And so not glamorous, needs a lot of touch up, needs a lot of work. So apologize that it wasn't a bit more refined product here. But this is just a quick mock-up just to show viability. So you're going to have to work on the actual shape of this and actually put in the values that you actually want to map. So here I've basically just created random values between 0 and 100. But it's a proof of concept, so you can you could embed that, you could theoretically embed this, in your own website, so you could have a series of bokeh charts that are moderately interactive in that you can hover over them and get a tooltip. So that was just a tool that I was exploring, but I'll quit boring you to death with that, and then we can maybe move back into APIs. But what are your thoughts? Or does bokeh look like a tool that any of you would use?
Yeah, I mean, it looks interesting. I shared a link. There's a Kaggle class on using geospatial pandas,
Excellent.
which does you can do a sort of a similar kind of thing, but it's a free class and it'll take you through step by step how to build maps and and how to deal with geospatial data.
Exactly, and so there's a lot of opportunities there, and so it's as far as a data analysis perspective, it's if you did a study with geospatial data, that could be well respected. So, for example, you can even use, essentially distance in regression models, and there's a lot of there's a lot of opportunities there. So you can calculate distance between places, you to try to find out nearest neighbors. There's a lot you can do there. So that's that's kind of what I was working on, was trying to plot various things. But I guess let's jump and just change gears now and look a bit more at APIs. All right. Okay. Okay. Right, so I guess let's just pick up, where we were last week, with just essentially writing calls to the state traceability system. Okay, so we can find that in our resources from last time. And there is the PDF. Okay, so essentially we're just sort of going through here and just seeing, okay, how do we actually go about making calls to the API? So the first step, we discovered that, at least for the Washington State API, you do in fact have to create the users through the user interface. So that's going to be a communication hurdle, for you to develop your software, because essentially you may have to communicate to your clients the users that they may need to create. But let's go ahead and just pick up where we were last time. Okay, so we've got our base endpoint. We're passing our API key in the header, and I was reading in the documentation. So where was it? Okay, so I don't think it's 100% necessary, but you may also have to pass a header that is your email password. So it says that in the documentation, but for some reason I don't think it's actually necessary to make a valid API call. So I would test it without it first. And so all you can do at the moment is, so you can get the MMEs, which you'll need to get your MME code. And then we're just going to start walking through this. So to create an area, you pass it a list of areas. Okay, simple enough. So then you'll need to populate your cultivator with strains and inventory types. So this is this is where there's a lot of I guess naming convention confusion between when do you use strain name and when do you use inventory name. See, um, and so this is where there's maybe not a lot of consensus in the industry. But let's just go ahead and make make an example post. So it looks like the only required field to create a strain name is simply the actual name. So we can maybe make this more interesting. So let's say you have a handful of strains. All right, so we can go ahead and make a bunch of posts.
So if we had like a record set, if we were pulling a list of strains from a table in Acumatica, we could just do a record set, loop through the record set. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and so so then you can just make a bunch of strains, and then go ahead and then post that up to your strains. So yeah, and so that's what your data would look like, to create a handful of strains. So not that exciting yet. So let's jump up to inventories and see what the situation is there. Because essentially we'll just walk through the whole traceability process and see if there's any curveballs. So you'll need to create an inventory type here, it looks like. Okay, and so this is where things get interesting. Because so let's go ahead and figure out like what's going on here. So first, it looks like there are sort of general types. So this is just going to be like a broad spectrum, just sort of to categorize things, sort of to know, what area things are going to be in. So these are broad types. And in fact, let me open this twice because I kind of want to.
Can you put the link to that manual in the chat box too?
Yes, I think here it should be in the chat box.
Is it? Okay, let me look.
But I'm gonna mark. Actually, I forgot to do it. But after this call, I'm going to mark up this diagram because I've got a lot of comments that I would like to add on this in the white space here. So,
Okay.
but this is because, it's not clear here what licensee is doing what, right? Because so right here, you've got cultivators clearly who are making the strain types and inventories. Actually, oh, never mind. This is the production workflow. So that makes sense. But still notes to be had. Okay, so the type essentially designates, okay, what stage in the process is it? Right, so the immature plants is when it's still getting propagated. Then you get the mature plants when it's moved into the flower room. Then you get harvest material. And so this is once you've actually made a harvest on the mature plant. So you've moved it out of your flower room, you've destroyed the plant, and then you've created the harvest material. Right? And so then of the harvest material, you essentially have intermediate products which need to get lab tested. You have waste which needs to be disposed of, and this disposing, it typically means mixing it 50-50 with another substance. So, for example, I have heard of cultivators using dirt. So they'll mix their waste 50-50, 50% cannabis waste with 50% soil or dirt, and then dispose of that. And so, just kind of throwing it out there, if any of you run into cannabis cultivators who need a waste solution, there's better carbon solutions, which this is a friend of mine, Rocky Holland. He is basically trying to tackle the problem of, okay, how can we deal with cannabis waste in an environmentally friendly way, right? Because if you're just mixing it with 50% dirt and going and putting it in a landfill, well, that's a lot of organic material that's just going straight to a landfill. So his idea is there may be something you could actually do with that waste. So I don't know. I think it's a good story, and I'd like to see where he goes with that. And so one of the things that I'm trying to help with is just calculate the amount of waste weight that's generated. And so I'm still digging into it, but I believe that data should be in inventory adjustments. So if any of you are feeling ambitious, then essentially just trying to calculate the amount of waste. But
It's actually in batches.
oh, you've discovered it.
Yeah, it's in batches.
Oh, awesome, Charles. Do you know what the data looks like by chance? Or I guess it's probably described here in the
Yeah, look in the manual for it.
yeah. So, well, I won't get us off track, but that's an awesome lead. So, thank you,
Yeah.
Charles.
Yeah, from a manufacturing standpoint, a batch, essentially in batch processing, right? You're transferring things from one status to another, right? And what they want to know is that those steps, as it's being transferred, how much of it is becoming, wet harvest, how much of it is becoming waste, in order to fully trace that, right? In any accounting system, you've got to have some type of, think of it like a transaction, but it's a batch transaction that is saying a certain lot has been created, and as a result of that, there's some waste or side products essentially with the waste. So that makes sense.
Well, awesome, and that's exactly so. Like I said, I'm not really here to preach to the choir because it's so. I'm actually here to learn from you as much as much as anything. So thank you.
That's cool that Charles found that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So because that's an important piece to their business model is knowing, okay, well, how much waste is actually generated and where is it generated.
Right.
So
Well, you want to make sure this stuff isn't, that everything's traced, right? It's a very controlling state API. They want to know every jot and tittle, as it were.
So yeah, so it's something people may not think much about waste, but it's an important part of the whole ecosystem. So
Right. It would make good fertilizer. I mean, any kind of organic material, right? As it breaks down, becomes good fertilizer.
exactly.
I'll take it off his hands. We have a garden in the back.
Well, essentially, I think he's pretty open about his business plan, but essentially that's the idea is so you take the waste, you make biochar, and so you can use it for, I think you can make, so essentially you can use the char for fertilizer.
Mhm.
But let's just keep
Yeah, keep going. Sorry, I interrupted.
keep churning along. No, that's interesting. It's just interesting there. So here we're going to break it down a bit more. So this, I think, this is where the field that I really use to differentiate between the different types of products. So you have what you call your your intermediate type. Um, and we'll figure out maybe how to classify this a bit more refined. Let me just parse this out for 1 second. Sorry, I just cleaning this data up real quick. 1 second. Okay. So here we're just sort of building an array or a list of all the product types. Okay, so not pretty, but just sort of getting a crude list here. Okay, so so this is essentially how I would break everything down by different types. But you're welcome to sort of refine this a bit more, because so everything here is sort of a finished is a product that's going to end up on the shelves, and will need lab testing. Things down here are more of supply chain categories. So, for example, if you if you harvest any seeds out of your crops, if you make any clones, you make any plant tissue. So these are almost types that you're going to be creating more for your cultivation workflow. So we'll need to take that into consideration. We'll need to research about the non-mandatory plant sample. I'm not 100% certain. And then and think once again, when you actually harvest the cannabis, you're essentially going to be denoting it as. So I actually may need to read up on these fields. So I actually don't know too much about those fields. So this could be a good direction to head into towards next time. Is okay. How do we actually go about creating these types? So let's look at what a type post request would look like, because we've got to create the data. So if we're creating a type, we'll give it an external ID, and so that will be an ID that you can generate for it, so you can keep track of it in your system. The name, which will be the name that the licensee would like to refer to it as. The type, which is just the broad category. And then the intermediate type, so that depends on what you're actually going to do with it. And then the weight, and I believe it can either be each or grams. So let's see.
So the system doesn't enforce the each or grams. Like there'll be dried flour and but it'll be an each. Like there'll be 1,000, right? But it's actually should be grams. Or like seedlings will come up in grams, or seeds will come up in grams, but I think they should be each, or even seedlings. So the system doesn't really enforce a lot of these things. Just like there's a like negative amount of dried flour and negative waste. So negative waste to me tells me that you've actually like gained, you've gained some flour. So there's a lot of anomalies like this in the data.
So what would be interesting to see is the negative waste, are they just doing a correction, or is maybe that just that licensee just thinks that waste is a negative, so they just code it as negative? So that would
right,
be
but it should be consistent across everybody,
right? And
you're talking government here, though.
So what you're discovering, Charles, is the intricacies of of data, of essentially data science is, it's amazing, because, they've got, fairly well defined fields here. But you're right. So that's where we're sort of doing our sort of investigation slash analysis is we're basically, this is the API, this is what it says it's going in as. And like you said, we can actually then come and, read it in the I think they have inventories here somewhere. Yeah,
It'd
so
be interesting to see whether on the data entry, when you send it to them, whether you're required to make it negative on the post or whether it's just being recorded as a negative in their system. So when you do a get, you get the negative because that's what's stored in their system, right? I think it's just going to be testing it, just trial and error to find out, okay, do I post this as a positive and then they flip the sign because it's a waste type of transaction?
Yeah, but out of all the, hundreds of thousands of records, there are only like five records that have negative waste. So obviously somebody just put in negative.
So they don't have any kind of error checking on it. Their data validation maybe on the entry is not good.
They don't. There are things that were tested 125 years ago, and there are things that were tested 125 years in the future. So there's no data validation at all.
And so, exactly. And so this is sort of where the exploration begins because, as you're building your system out, you just kind of want to keep in mind these data intricacies because, your system, so say you build it for wholesalers, they're going to be dealing with retailers, they're going to be dealing with other producers, they're going to be dealing with processors. And, the better your system can interact with other systems, in their data. So if somebody puts in a wonky strain name, someone puts in a weird inventory type, so someone codes it as flower, but it should be flower lots. The better your software system can handle that, the happier your clients are going to be, because at the end of the day, they just want things to just run smoothly, and interface nicely with the people they're doing business with, and like I said, you just have to take the state traceability system as given, and then make your system run as smoothly as possible around it. At least that's my 2 cents. But I would just like to say that, just to sort of round this up, that I think just to round it up, so I think I actually have a lot more exploration to do with the inventory types because I wasn't actually as ready to go with that as I thought. So for next week, I'm going to be reading up on the inventory types, to actually try to figure out what's the difference between all these intermediate types, and that way we can actually do a bit better mock towards the API next time. But I guess we're kind of near the end of the hour, so I guess just are there any questions, comments from the gang? Or
No.
no? All right. Well, thank you all for coming, and I apologize that the chloropleth yeah, that was sort of a hiccup. So I'm going to clean that up, and I'll send you all, a link to the code, so that way you can see a cleaned up version. And then, like I said, we'll continue, reading up on this traceability system, so that way, next week can have a bit more informative of a discussion. But, you know, and for Nick, I'm going to keep an eye out for good data sources for you too. So.
Yeah, I think I'll be joining every week. This is really interesting stuff. So
Question real quick before we go. Do you work in Washington State or
I actually work in Oregon.
in Oregon? Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I'll keep that in mind. Oregon has an API that you can hit for pesticides, but I'm not sure much else. But I'll keep that in mind in case we come across any good Oregon data.
Yeah, I am in Oregon, but we are hopefully by the end of the year we're gonna be producing in Washington. So I work for Grand Wild, and right now we're in California, Colorado, Nevada. So we're in multiple states, not just in Oregon.
Awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and let you go here, but stay tuned because we'll dig up some good data for you. And if you're interested in any in particular data points, I know producers and processors are interested in what other brands retailers are carrying and things like that. So we can do some good analysis for you.
Awesome. Yeah, look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining, everyone, and until next time, keep your nose to the grindstone.
Before you disconnect, I would like to definitely connect with you because I'm interested in all this. I would like to, set up an actual meeting with my team and see how we could connect all this information all this data you guys are acquiring to see how that, we could utilize it in our platform. So whenever I put my LinkedIn there, if you want to connect with me there, or I could shoot you my phone or my email and we could connect from there. It's definitely very interesting, all these data points you guys are taking and see how we could integrate it with our platform.
Absolutely, Danny. I'll send you a message, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. Is get good data into your platform so you can make it useful.
Thank you. All right, guys. Have a
awesome,
good day.
Danny. Well, until next week. It's good meeting you all.
Same here. Bye-bye.
Bye.